receive and maintain it. Me the Tathagata's true meaning. I was completely thrown off by Sharma killing that mosquito.
I have a new dog. And
I almost chanted the last line like, don't you realize you're not supposed to kill the mosquito?
okay.
And I lost track.
Okay. It's not a mosquito.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, it's not a
You
mosquito.
can unmute yourself if you're trying to talk, Sharma.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so.
Oh, can you hear her? I can't hear her. Hang on here.
What's going on?
Okay, try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. That's a good sound check. Thank you.
I have a new dog who's a rescue, and she's never been trained. She's about a year. So I'm like, she was barking really loud. So I was trying to clap to get her to stop.
Okay.
Don't want to disturb those around me with her barking. So sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It was just funny how the motion caught my attention and my mind went, you know.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you.
That's how perfectly Zen I am. Yeah.
Thank you for understanding.
Yeah, that's what 20 years of practice gives you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see some of you again for the second time in the weekend. A lot of the faces on the screen were in yesterday's Zazen Kai, and a few were not for good reasons. You know, I mean, Philip's girlfriend's birthday weekend and they're off camping. I give them a hall pass for that, you know. Galen had a lot of work to do, but I think you popped up on screen at some point during the day. Yeah, Galen? I thought I saw you somewhere in there.
Yeah, I wasn't able to keep the schedule, but I did get a half hour sitting in, and I watched you all do your thing. Appreciate being able to be there.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining as you could, and Gabriel, same to you. For our first virtual Zazen Kai, I'm declaring it a success.
Yes, me too.
So much hard work by Lori Akasha over here ringing every instrument and doing Jikido. Ken led a wonderful Kundalini yoga session. Really, Ken, nicely done. It's, we've had you lead Qigong sessions before. This first time we've had you do yoga. It's really cool to see a master in his element. So thank you for that. And Kazumi Melissa was digital Jisha. She ran the interview line and was the coordinator for the Zazen Kai, and she did it from Sacramento at her sister's house. And it was really just a pleasure for me to see the team coming together and produce this. And then everybody that participated. And we did have some people jump in at different points during the day to listen into the Dharma talk or the afternoon training on mindsets, which I always think is a good piece. I'm getting a thumbs up from Mel. So that's great. That's good. So just a big acknowledgement and thank you to everyone, all of you, for your practice. Maybe maybe you don't know how much it means from the teacher's side to have people just show up. As Tension has said, without students, there is no teacher. It doesn't, it's not like a unilateral, solitary thing. And I've done a lot of Zazen Kais over my time and a lot of sessions and that, but to see people, give up their Friday evening and show up at 6:30 a.m. and hang in there through 3:30 p.m. and make all those adjustments that are necessary to pursue this practice, to take it forward, to share it with the world is pretty cool. It's just nice to see. Rosie, who was with us yesterday, said, I hope we're doing this again. And we haven't published our calendar yet, but the next Zazenkai is scheduled already for June 12th. So if any of you are interested, mark that date. We're going to try to get our calendar up on the website soon, but June 12th is the next Zazenkai. Before that, we have a digital remote session for 4 days scheduled April 21st through the 25th. So it starts on Wednesday night and ends Sunday. I'm bringing that up now, not to just continue going on about the schedule, but coming out of yesterday, I'm aware just once again of the power of getting together and sitting together and practicing together for extended, intense periods of time. So that's coming up April 21st through the 25th. I was also aware yesterday of how many people it takes to pull this off in terms of support. I know that Lori probably during those days, at least a couple of them will be on job sites. So I won't have a Jikido and a Doan person. So, and I don't know yet about Melissa's availability. In other words, if you're interested in helping produce that session, and if you can give the time to it, let me know. Raise your hand now or later and let me know, and we can work out details. And we can also have more than one person doing different roles so that we can, get through the 4 days. And if we don't have enough people that, are interested in participating or that can help, then obviously we probably won't do it because it's not a solo adventure. Yesterday, we also dedicated the day, somewhat informally and somewhat spontaneously, to the women in our practice and on our lineage. Deanne Shinzon was with us for the day, and Deanne is a long time practitioner up at Yokoji, as Galen knows and some other people know. She also has stepped in for the next training period up there to be head trainee, or Shuso, which means she's going to go live up on the mountain for 2 months and be the person in charge of making sure everything happens the way it is. It's a huge training opportunity and a training challenge, no matter how long you've been doing this. And so we took some time yesterday to acknowledge her and give her all of our support, and in that process, we decided, as we were doing the dedication on the second service, to acknowledge all the women in our lineage, all the teachers throughout time. And so we recited in full, as much as it can be full, the full lineage of all of the women teachers throughout time. 61, as Lori counted them. And it was a good test of my ability to say Japanese, Korean, and Chinese names on the spur of the moment. But there's a long lineage chart that we often used to hang at Santa Monica Zen Center, and pretty notably, except for Jikyo at the bottom, there's not a woman on that chart, which, as we know from our study of the book Zen Women, is a major omission. So I just wanted those of you that were not there for those parts of the day to hear that context, because I think it's important. And then we covered the koan Joshu sees through an old woman, which is a koan with one of the few occurrences of women in the cases, where the old woman essentially throws up a barrier for monks seeking enlightenment and plays a critical role. And we talked about, the fact that the path is here right under our feet, whether we know it or not, whether we realize we're walking on it or not. And that we spend all this time seeking the other shore and looking for the boat and the oars to carry us over there, when we're in fact standing on it. And then the role of teachers and testing questions and all of that. So that's a little bit of what we did yesterday. I wanted to follow that up today with case 44 from the Blue Cliff record, which is Kasan Beats the Drum, because it does relate in that sense of, what is this practice? What is the commitment? What does it take? What are the answers to all of these big questions that are pondered in all the cases throughout time? So let me just dive in after that relatively long preface. Case 44, Kasan Beats the Drum, and I'm going to read first from Maizumi Roshi's translation of it, and then move to this book that I know some of you have, Secrets of the Blue Cliff Records, for the verse. The case itself. Kasan, giving instructions, said, learning by study is called mon, or mon, hearing. Completing learning is called rien, next door to truth. Having passed through these two is called true passing. A monk stepped forward and asked, what is true passing? Kasan replied, I know how to beat the drum. The monk asked, what is the supreme truth of Buddhism? Kasan said, I know how to beat the drum. The monk asked again, I do not ask about just mind, just Buddha. What is no mind, no Buddha? Kasan said, you could probably guess it by now, I know how to beat the drum. The monk asked once more, when a truly enlightened person appears, how will you treat her? Kasan said, I know how to beat the drum. So that's the case. The verse on this, one hauled rock, another carried dirt. To shoot the bolt, you need a 10-ton crossbow. Seppo once rolled some balls. How can that compare to Wasan's ability to beat the drum? I announce for your information, you should not be crude. Sweet is sweet, and the bitter is bitter. So it's a fun koan, a nice koan. And one reason I like it is because these questions, what is the real going beyond? What is the absolute truth? Or let me use the same words. What is true passing? What is the supreme truth of Buddhism? I'm not asking about just mind, just Buddha. What is no mind, no Buddha? When an enlightened person appears, how will you greet her? You'll run into these in other koans. Each of these is a koan in themselves. I'm not asking about just mind, just Buddha. What is no mind, no Buddha? What is the supreme truth? When you meet an enlightened man on the way, how will you greet him? These are all koans in themselves. And yet Kasan here just keeps answering, I know how to beat the drum. I know how to beat the drum. The dirt of the other shore is right under your feet. right under our feet. The first part of this is worth looking at a little bit. Learning by study is called hearing. In some translations, it's called listening. Okay, this is what we're engaged in right now. This is looking at these questions, looking at these cases, looking at the sutras, the liturgy, studying, trying to penetrate it, trying to understand it. That's one stage of our practice, right? Is the listening stage, the hearing and trying to divine it and trying to understand it. That's one stage. Completing that stage or completing that learning is called, next door to truth. Okay, so this is having some enlightenment, an enlightenment experience, right? And I think it's in the identity of relative and absolute. It's like, enlightenment is not yet, or, oh, how's it go, everybody? Something is not yet enlightenment. Seeing the way is not yet enlightenment. The words are failing me. But again, having that realization, seeing it, experiencing it, no matter how glorious, there's still always work to do. Have you eaten your rice yet? Wash your bowls, right? And that's this being next door to truth. It's interesting in typically Zen way, completing learning, right? In our normal way of viewing our lives in the world, completing is done. And yet here it's set up, it's like completing it is next door to truth. In other translations, it's called nearness. Not there-ness, but nearness. It's like, aha, I got it. But of course, as soon as you grab onto that got it kind of, what's there? Nearness. It's like Zeno's paradox, which I've mentioned before. You're half the distance to the wall, mathematical paradox, but I love it in terms of Zen practice. Step halfway to the wall. Now step again halfway to the wall, step again halfway to the wall. Keep doing that till you ever reach the wall. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Moo. So, nearness, infinite nearness. And our practice is a lot like that. In fact, our lives are a lot like that, right? Those beautiful, glorious moments of being in love or hearing the birds or seeing the sunset or playing the music, and then Sharma swats a mosquito and you forget how to do it. And then it turns out it wasn't even a damn mosquito. We've always pulled away from that nearness. And then that next question, having passed through these two, and now this is attaining Buddhahood, as we call it, right? Okay, you're beyond the training. And then you even penetrate enlightenment. You pass through those two as true passing. Well, what does that look like? Somebody recently, not on the screen currently, somebody recently reported a big opening, came to me and said, oh my God, what do I do now? How do I live my life? Having seen what I saw, understanding what I understood. Now listen to the trap, even in the words. Understanding what I understood, having seen what I saw, the moment is already gone, right? And yet the question is, how do I go on? How do I do this thing called life when it's all been blown wide open? I am the sky, I am the bird, I am the 10,000 things. How do I drive my car? And of course, I asked, how did you start up Zoom? You know, the dirt of the other shore is always right under our feet. You know, what are you going to do next? Suppose I do a really good job of this talk and one of you has a bolt of lightning strike and it's like crown of the head is split wide open and all kinds of wonderful things happen. You know, then what? You know, a rock hits a stick of bamboo and you're enlightened. Then what? Well, for Kasan, I know how to beat the drum. Now, in the koan yesterday, the old woman kept testing the monks. The monks are on their way to the great mountain called Taizan. And of course, the mountain is actually a mountain, but it's also a metaphor in that story for enlightenment. You know, what is the way to enlightenment? And she says, go straight ahead. And the second they take a few steps straight ahead, she says, there goes Sharma again. It's okay, Sharma, I'm just having fun. The second they go straight ahead, she says, a fine monk like you going on like that. Again, she like hauls them up short. And then the question is, what do? Do they turn around and stop? Do they keep going? Do they get angry and go tell a story on Joshua for, you know, like this woman, like, yeah. You know, a testing question, what do? You know, go straight ahead. You take a few steps. So in this case, actually, the monk is testing Kasan, and this is a fine example of Dharma battle, Dharma combat. You know, where peers or people of different ranks, whatever, it's that you come in and test knowledge and test understanding. Okay, well, you say that's true passing. What is true passing? I know how to beat the drum. Well, if that's the case, what's the supreme truth of Buddhism? I know how to beat the drum. Well, if that's the case, what about this no mind, no Buddha, or just mind, just Buddha? I know how to beat the drum. You know, so Kasan in a way is being challenged by this monk and he's just holding his ground. Just as we're asked to hold our ground in our understanding, Soko, of what is right and what is righteous. You know, I know how to beat the drum. And no matter what question is thrown at you, Melanie, you know, what challenge from your fellow Texans, I know how to beat the drum. You know, the question is, what's your drum? What's your drum? You know, we had Dexter Dwight on a few months ago. He literally plays the drums. Jeff plays the guitar and sings. You know, he's got an instrument. Ken's got at least a couple instruments up his sleeve. You know, yoga, qigong, reiki. You know, Paul.
Can I answer the question what my drum is?
Sure.
I'm an actor and I remind people what it is to be human.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that a beautiful answer to your question to me yesterday in a way? And we won't go into the details, but Melanie's question essentially was that of this other student. How do I do this? What do I do? Sometimes I'm so pissed off and angry. What do I do? Galen, ever been pissed off and angry about the state of the world? Nah. Sharma, ever been pissed off and angry at the state of the world? Nah. You know, what do you do? What is that drum, and how do you beat it? Interesting little just side note on this koan. When you look at it from a teaching angle, and when you're challenged on this koan as a teacher, it also goes to perseverance, holding a rhythm, showing up. You know, you think about a drum in a band, right? In a marching band, it sets the cadence for the journey, right? Boom, 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 boom. You know, right? It sets the cadence for the journey. The drum can inspire others to action, to continuance, to perseverance, to practice. And so from a teacher's point of view, how do you beat the drum? How do you beat the drum? You know, some of us are storytellers. You know, some of us find ourselves in robes against all odds. You know, interestingly enough, this character Kasan, who lived in the 9th and 10th centuries, entered Seppo's monastery when he was 7 years old. You know, at 20 years old, Seppo died, I think at the age of 76, something like that. And Kasan, you know, changed teachers and kept on going, beating that drum. We talked a little bit yesterday about Gutai's one finger when asked about the true meaning. He just always raised one finger. And throughout his whole life, all he did was raise one finger. You know, what is your finger? What is your drum? And stay true to it. You know, this drumbeat of practice. Right, Gabriel, you know, it's like this getting up at 5:30 at first is like, oh my God. Anybody else want to nod their head on the getting up at 5:30 or getting up at 4 to get?
It's, yeah.
Yeah, you know, getting up at 4 to get to Santa Monica Zen Center by 5. We've given you all an extra half hour, by the way. You know? Or if you're Tenzo in a session, getting up at 3 to, you know, get the meals going and get the coffee on and, you know, get that going. And you just keep beating the drum and listen to the drum. And listen to that drum beat of the Sangha. You know, listen to the rhythm of the net. You know, Melanie has her instrument, Art has his, Mark has his. And these voices speak up, and, you know, Gabriel asks a question, and that's him tuning the instrument. And together it can be a wonderful harmony. I remember when I first presented this koan, I'm not a musician, you know, so, you know, I approached it from a fairly monotone point of view, and I was questioned, like, where's the rhythm? Where's the joy? You know, if you're going to teach this shit, where's the joy? You know? We're asking people to show up and consistently practice. It can't just be a grind, you know? It can't be like a whoom, 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 whoom. You know, where's the music in it? How do you strum the guitar? Anyway, the verse, let's just cover that, and then we'll move over to comments, questions, and the rest of Sunday. One hauled rock, another carried dirt. To shoot the bolt, you need a 10-ton crossbow. Seppo once rolled some balls. This is addressing the teaching side of it, okay? And this is not that you have to be a teacher in a certain color of robes or a certain color of raksu, because one of the things I love about this Sangha, maybe all Sangha, but I'm acknowledging you guys specifically, is that each of you in your own way. We're all teachers. Everyone here, I mean, there's not a slacker in the bunch. Everyone here has stepped up somehow in a very big way in their lives, their practice, their music, their teaching, their counseling, their leading of groups, their work at work as a teacher. So listen to this. One teacher hauled rock, another carried dirt, another used a 10-ton crossbow to get the message across. Seppo, the great teacher, once in front of the whole assembly, just simply rolled out 3 wooden balls across the floor to see how the monks would respond. How does this compare to Kasan's ability to beat the drum? Well, there's really no compare, and that's the point. So whether Paul is being headmaster of a school or a chaplain in a hospital, you know, that is the beating of the drum, the rolling out of the wooden balls, the carrying of the dirt, the hauling of rocks. Okay. Or Sharma in her work with her patients, counselees, you know, the people that she works with. How does that compare to beating the drum? It compares perfect. It doesn't compare. There's no compare. Not if you're doing it. I announce for your information that you shouldn't be crude. Look at this finely. You know, true passing. In true passing, sweet is sweet and bitter is bitter. And words are not even needed. All right, over to you. Comments, questions, challenges. I know how to beat the drum, I think. Sharma.
Sometimes I feel like silence is the drum.
Yeah,
Is that possible?
of course.
Okay.
Of course. And by the way, this goes directly to how do I raise a teenager too? No, it does. You know, sometimes you just have to keep pounding on that drum.
Yep.
You know,
That's
keep letting your heart beat.
Mm-hmm.
The love of a parent
Mm-hmm.
be the beat of the drum. And just keep going. Just keep doing it. Silent or not. Yes. Lori's calling on Jeff.
First of all, I just want to say, sorry I missed you guys yesterday. I teach on Saturdays, and it should have occurred to me that I could have come for like the morning session, but it didn't. So next time I'll join you for part of it.
Great.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. What occurs to me about it is just how crazy we are, or how crazy I am. You know, like we're always, we are always so concerned with, you know, figuring things out, and there's got to be something else, and really like the answer is just right in front of us, or in front of me, and if I just focus on what's right in front of me right now, right here, then that is the way.
Hmm.
I think it's interesting that I love the drum analogy, because I am a musician, and I did a podcast the other day with a couple of friends about kind of what I'm up to with just different acting stuff and music stuff, and my friend who was interviewing me was like, you know, it's so, all the things you do, you're performing, and if you screw it up, people see it, you know, like you have to be really in the moment and really present. Like why do you do that? And I'd never thought about it before. But it occurs to me that in music and in acting, as I'm sure Melanie can attest, you know, you really have to be present. You have to give yourself over if it's going to be any good, and certainly if it's going to be transformative for people, it's going to really like get into their guts and communicate what you're trying to say. So um so yeah, I guess what my takeaway from the koan is like just truly be present, whatever that means and how whatever that takes. Like beat the drum, you know, just be here, um, doing what you're doing with all your focus.
Yeah, some of the formal commentary around this koan talks about positive samadhi, which is, being realized in the phenomenal world. So whatever you're doing, whether it's chopping vegetables or strumming the guitar or doing a podcast or wielding a chainsaw or whatever it is, that you are fully present in that, whatever that is. So that would be a formal description of what you just described.
Yeah,
Positive samadhi.
samadhi.
Not just floating in the absolute, but being present right here,
Cool.
in this world that has form and structure.
Okay.
Jeff, would you remind me, I see you're wearing your rock suit, remind me of your Dharma name?
I found it. It was in my trunk.
Yeah.
My Dharma name's Ado.
Ado, that's right. And what does Ado mean?
Ado means illuminating way.
Illuminating way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing how big they are to step into, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you keep illuminating the way. Paul.
Two things it came to mind from your teaching. Thank you. And just playing up on what Jeff was saying, and that notion of banging the drum. I know it's probably in several religious traditions, but I just remember it. To find the right teacher, see how he or she ties their shoelaces. Because in that there is that, and I know it was not in Zen Buddhism, so either I heard it from Judaism or somewhere else, but that notion of see how they tie their shoelaces, and that will give you a sense of who really has found a way. And then Dan, when you were talking about, I forget that that mathematical formula where it's halfway to halfway to halfway.
Zeno's paradox, yeah.
Zeno's paradox. And that notion of somebody being near to enlightenment, but you never get there. For the past year, I've been thinking about meeting all the COVID restrictions and regulations as a school administrator, trying to square that circle with meet county, but also meet local government, but also meet the needs of the kids. And I described it as playing chess with pieces made of smoke. And I think that metaphor could be used for the path towards enlightenment. Just when you think you have moved the pieces, they go away.
Yeah. And Paul, I'd like to just emphasize that one of the beautiful paradoxes of Zen and Buddhism in general is that, and the reason I bring up Zeno's paradox is because obviously if you physically try to do that halfway to the wall, I mean, you make it to the wall. I mean, and yet mathematically it's an infinite formula that you don't make it to the wall. So, remember that we are all inherently already the awakened one. And yet we work our way toward this thing that we already have. It's a beautiful paradox. It keeps us going. It keeps us honest. And another way to look at it is just peeling the infinite layers of the onion. because at your core, your true nature, this is who we all are. But the onion grows over time from baby to adult, and there's a lot of layers added on. So the practice is one of revealing or realizing what is already so. So it doesn't strictly hold to Zeno's paradox in the sense that you never get there, because we are there. We just don't realize it. Does that make sense? Okay. In a way, it's my sloppy use of Zeno's paradox, but it always gets a point across unless somebody gets hung in that infinity thing. Anybody else? Gabriel, you look like a field and a mountain. How are you doing out there?
Life is really good, as you can see. There I am.
Hey.
Yeah, I was thinking about how the student kept asking these really big questions about, like, how do you treat the enlightened one, and like just these questions that kind of all get answered in the drum, right? It's just
Right.
it's all in the drum. Like, all you need to know is in the drum right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of just sitting with that and kind of letting the simplicity set in of enlightenment in itself.
Yeah. 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 Nice. That's a good place to be sitting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good place to be sitting, and it is one of the ultimate truths, is that there's nothing to teach. And yet we teach. We help each other. I also want to just acknowledge in this beating of the drum, my teacher Tenshin Roshi and my teacher before that Yoshin Roshi, who each in their own ways have always kept beating that drum. Both Tenshin and Yoshin started in their early 20s at ZCLA, and have been beating their respective drums for 40 something years, 40 something years. And, each in their own way gifted teachers, and recognizing that that gift is not something to hold tight or squander. And that's there for each of us as well. It's one of the precepts, right? I vow not to be stingy, especially with the Dharma. You are the Dharma. Don't be stingy. And Paul, Yoshin's variation on the how a teacher ties their shoes is how does she or he treat the waiter? How does she or he treat the waiter? And I know that Tenshin is watching how Galen and I treat the chainsaw. There's always a lot of different ways of testing. All right. How are we doing on time? We're pretty good. Anybody else? Welcome, John. Good to see you. Mark, how you doing? Couple days of good practice under your belt?
Yeah, for sure. I'm still just kind of riding from yesterday. When you were talking about the drum beat and how do you raise a teenager and stuff like that, and I realized that life is really trying to have multiple drum beats that don't throw you out of sync. You know, because
Yeah.
like no two things in life are gonna be able to be kept with the same drum beat.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And yet there you are in the middle of all of it.
Just going straight ahead.
Go straight ahead. Again, a fine monk like you. Good work, Mark, and everybody. Marsh, Art, you good over there?
Just want to say I love the metaphors. It just tickles my brain. I'm just so happy to listen to it. Thank you so much for your talk, Dan.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
Art.
strikes me, we see these same people every week. And, you know, Paul just came up with two things that are close to me, teaching and chess. Marsh and I have taught between us over 55 years. And chess, I've played in over 100 tournaments, graded tournaments. And I used to give chess exhibitions. LAUSD used to pay me in the summertime to go to 2 schools a day and play up to 30 people at once. Anyone who beat me got a chess set and a trophy. And it was fun all summer. But it's interesting that I made the connection to you today, Paul, who I've never met before, through the few things you've said. Thank you.
Yeah, we have thank you, Art. We have a fair number of teachers in our Sangha, actually, between you two, Art and Marsh, and Philip and Paul, and who am I missing? Jeff, yeah. Well, again, everybody's a teacher in their own way, but yeah, we do have a fair number of school teachers. All right, well, I think I've pretty much almost called on everybody except for Ken and Galen. So I'll just mention your names in case you want to jump in, and otherwise we'll head into the rest of Sunday. Ken?
One interesting thing that was passed on to me by one of my many instructors, and I believe this one came from my favorite instructor in massage school when I was at the Swedish Institute in New York City. And you know how in any discipline, we all make a big hoo-ha about technique. How do you do it? What is it called? Where did it come from? Et cetera, and always trying to get it right. And this one beautiful teacher just said, hey, technique is nothing but a distraction to allow the client to get where he or she needs to go. And I just went, there it is. There it is. So I do all of this stuff to distract you and kind of release you to your experience. Yeah. Jeff talked about it in acting. You know, all of this stuff, maybe even the script is just a distraction, you know, to allow you to go in deeper. So I've never forgotten that. And yet, what do I teach? I teach techniques. It's absolutely mind-bendingly paradoxical, but it makes so much sense, right? If I'm going to cha-cha with Laurie, I better know 1, 2, 3, cha-cha-cha, you know, I better know that. At the same time, going along with the drum beat, we lose technique. And that's the whole point about technique. So that's why I like Zen. And, you know, that book the first book we read, I believe, Instruction to the Cook, was all about technique. Slice this way, da-da-da-da. And then you get to eat the meal. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I realized that I've said turn to everyone except for the
Oh,
one right beside me.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Well, Galen, if you want it, I guess you get last word.
Last one to share wins. That's good. So I love the notion of watching how the master ties his shoes, and it immediately made me think how frustrating this COVID thing has been. And as much as I love these Zoom encounters, it's not the same, you know, to come to understand that all of these questions that we have when we come into this practice are somehow, for me at least, locked up here, and the answers come in more of an apprenticeship fashion than a intellectual fashion. And the ability to be with a master or a teacher and watch the way they live is so key. And so, you know, get your shots and let's get this thing back together so we can actually do it live. The only other thing was I recalled right away, the last time there was a Shuso Hosen, they asked me to come up. I was going to be able to sneak into their session, but they wanted me to play the drum for the procession. It's the one time that the drum is played at Yokoji. I mean, I've heard it before, but generally speaking, it is. And I'd always thought, man, that'd be fun to do that. And yet, I'm not a drummer. You know, I play music, and I've played with Roshi, and he knows I can keep time, but I'm not a drummer. And I mentioned to him, I said, how do I do this? I've never done this before. And he looked at me like I just, he went, oh, Galen, and just turned around and walked away. And left me with those sticks and go practice, you know. So that's what I did. That was a very funky procession too. You know, I had to go back to 24 years old in college in the music classes with the rudiments of how to play any kind of a drum to do that. But, you know, that it was there and I was able to do it and it was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, great to see you all. Sorry I missed you yesterday.
I hope you got everything accomplished yesterday that you needed to. Good.
Pretty much. Yeah. Thanks.
Good. Good. And, you know, what Galen says is very true. And, you know, I have had the opportunity, Lori and I have had the opportunity to spend time with all of you in some way over the years. But notably, Galen and I have not known each other that long or spent that much time together. But the first time we spent any time together was throwing logs around and using chainsaws, which up at Yokoji, which does teach you a lot about who the person next to you is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, who the person next to you is, whether it's a kitchen knife or a chainsaw or a drum or, you know, assisting at a zazenkai or whatever it is. You know, how does the practice manifest itself? And, you know, how many times can I say that, right? But it's true. How are you? How are you being? Who are you being? How do you tie your shoes? Thank you all for your contributions to another great Sunday. You know, I learned from my 20-something-year-old son, I love you all, you know. They spread love freely, and I think it's a good thing. So I love you all. Thank you.